Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday night, so you know what that means. Everybody's asking the question that we're going to answer. And that is, hey, did you see this one? Hello, everybody. It's me, Jason, and your host this week, the Cage Man, Kalen. Hello, buddy.
Woo! Woo! Yeah! Thank you for having me. I don't have
on your own podcast.
On your own podcast.
Thank
We're
you.
not having you. Thank you for having us. If anything,
Kalen just thinks he's a guest every week. Thanks for having me back, guys. Yeah.
This podcast was your idea, so you're welcome.
I don't have a green poncho, but I do have a hood. As close as I could get. But yes, we
should have dressed in all the different colors. That would have been fun. I don't think I own anything in any of those colors, though.
I wore I got a collar on. I'm kind of like Mr. Glass.
I'm like Mr. Ass. Just kidding.
Rude.
I'm just saying we should try and replace as many words with the word glass as we can, or anything that sounds like it could contain glass in it.
Well, Steve, kiss my glass.
Kiss my glass, you glasshole.
Oh, just wait. Replace things with glass or replace glass with other things?
Both.
Okay.
Both, man. Yeah, Mr. Glass, the movie in which this movie is named after.
You mean this one right here?
Oh, shit.
Also, right here.
You're backwards. There you go.
I guess I don't really need to bring these out anymore. But sneak preview, I give it a buy. But yes, we are back for another week to bring you M. Night Shyamalan's Glass, the conclusion of the epic trilogy, starting with Unbreakable, following up with Split, and now rounding out with Glass. Which brings us to our first segment of the episode, our introductions to this movie. Jason, could you please share with us your first introduction to this movie?
Before I get to my introduction to this movie, I'd like to say to Gunny Berry T8 in the chat to get fucked and fuck completely off. We have a promotion bot that's trying to fuck around and find out, and the problem is I don't know if I can remove it here.
Computer, remove promotion.
Computer, remove enhance. Anyway, whatever. Don't do whatever that says, people in the chat. My name is Jason, and the first time I saw this movie was today. But I will say, I want to just say that I was really excited to watch this today. It's one of it's a rare movie where like I'm excited for it, and then I'm stoked about watching it. And then on top of all that, I watched all three of these movies basically in the span of about a year. So while the Split twist didn't really I already knew it. I already knew that Split was part of this trilogy. It was awesome to like watch Split just a few weeks ago and then go right into this and see how it concludes. And this one doesn't really have that big of a twist, or
this is what I questioned when Steve mentioned a couple weeks ago about ruining the twist, and I'm like, what twist?
But we'll get into that. I
mean, there's a couple of twists in this movie.
True.
I guess.
True.
It's a mystery movie. It's mysterious and has lots of revelation.
Like the guy's dead or whatever.
No, it's not like a neck snapping twist. It's like, it's just a bunch of little twists over and over again.
which we'll get into. But yeah, I watched it today, and that was my first foray into the movie Glass. And spoilers, I liked it.
Nice. I'm glad I could be a part of this with you. Does that bring us to Steven then?
It absolutely. Well, I don't know. You're the host, buddy.
I think it does.
Okay, it's me. First name Mr., last name Glass. Call me Mr. Glass. I saw this movie in theaters for the first time. I think we mentioned this during my Split breakdown, but I really liked Unbreakable when it first came out. I thought it was one of the coolest tellings of a superhero telling tale ever told. And I thought Split was good too. And the fact that I got super excited by the revelation that it is a part of the same world at the end was super exciting. So obviously I was very excited when I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, oh my God, they're doing it. They're freaking doing it. So I was very excited. On first watching this movie, I was weirdly kind of like, I don't know if I liked it. But then it was one of those ones that stuck with me for a few days afterwards, and I was thinking about things. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that movie's actually better than I thought. And then I watched it when it came out on streaming, and ended up being like, this movie kind of rules. I kind of love this movie. It's kind of great. And I felt the same way watching it today. I forgot that today was Wednesday, and for some reason all day thought it was Tuesday, and ended up watching this movie at almost had to watch it at 0.5 or 1.5 speed. Didn't have to. But yeah, I watched it again today, and I enjoyed it.
I watched it at 0.5 speed just to make sure I really reveled in all the moments. Just
so
got
James
every
McAvoy's deep voice was even deeper.
He had the deep when he turned into the beast. He was like, "Whoa."
One thing. So I work with a lot of like sound effects all the time in my job. So I have like libraries of weird stock sound effects and music and things. And I was noticing that during his fight sequences, they have all these stock animal noises that I've used like hundreds of times. So like I was just very much like, I know that's a bear, that's a lion.
Nice.
There was also when Glass towards the end gets punched in the chest, the sound of glass shatters.
Mm-hmm. The sound design in this movie is quite fun. But yeah, that was the first time I saw it was in theaters, and I liked it, and my like for the movie has grown since then.
Had some mixed feelings, but then it grew on you.
It was one of those situations where I overhyped it for myself.
Right.
Like, when you watch a trailer a bunch of times and you're so fucking excited, and then you go watch it and it just doesn't live up to the expectations that you created in your head.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah, pretty much any Star Wars movie ever.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess brings us to myself. I also saw this when it came out in theaters. Unfortunately, so I went with a girl that I was seeing at the time and one of my buddies, and we got drunk beforehand. And
never a good idea.
No. I saw the original Thor drunk in theaters, and I fucking was wasted and then passed out, and then woke up all confused when the Destroyer guy came.
End credits.
No, the Destroyer fight in the town. I was like, woke up and it was happening, and I was like, damn it, this is the part I wanted to see, and I was too drunk to really. Anyway, sorry, Kaylin, go ahead.
No, it's all good. You're adding on. But yeah, in general, almost always, I would say it's never good to get drunk for a movie. Maybe like a silly comedy, a little buzz, but I got drunk, and it definitely wasn't the best way to view this. And then I also left with somewhat mixed feelings, where I too was going in with a certain perception, but then upon repeated viewings, learned or got to enjoy the specifics and the fine tuning of this addition to the trilogy.
Nice. So, Steve? I asked you earlier if you had seen this movie because you had forgotten what day today was. So you've seen it like 4 times, and I assume 3 times.
This might have been my 4th. Yeah, at least 3.
Kaylin, how many times have you seen it?
I'm probably around maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7.
Just to add on to my little intro bit, when this movie came out, I was so fucking excited to see it, but then I was like, wait, John Split is in it? Wait, John Unbreakable is in it? And then I was like, oh, fuck.
They got Mr. Unbreakable, Mr. Split, and Mr. Glass? Holy shit.
In my notes, their fucking names are completely interchangeable. I call them Split constantly. But the thing is like, I'm the kind of person that needs to see everything, and this movie is one of those. Is not unlike a lot of the later MCU movies where you really need some context. If you just watched Glass with no context, you would be pretty confused, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm
Especially
glad
when flashbacks happen to,
to other
1998 Bruce Willis and the actor who plays his son, also a child. You're like, holy fuck.
Yo, they got him back for this. That was pretty awesome, I thought.
Well, the thing is that actor,
he's still an actor.
That actor
acting,
is in a shit load of things. He's in Animal Kingdom as a recurring character. He was in the Weird Al movie recently. He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm watching right now, and his arc just happened to be on it. He's a journeyman actor, and he's also, I saw him on one of those nepotism posts on TikTok. He's somebody's son.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which most
Julianne Moore
are.
Probably. He looks like her kind of.
Oh, he kind of looks like her, yeah.
Oh, you might be right, actually.
He's got the same dead eyes.
The sunken eyes?
Yeah. It's just like his pupil and his iris are the same color, so he just looks like he's like a demon
daywalker.
Yeah.
But just to add on, I really wanted to watch this. And actually, when Split came out, I didn't even know it was. I didn't even recognize it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I remember being like, that looks awesome. And I regret not watching Split, I guess. But the thing is then I would have been like, oh, now I have to watch Unbreakable. But the thing is just watching them all in order is the way to go here.
Yeah, I agree with that. One time I watched Terminator, I watched T2 first and then Terminator. And I was like, what? He's a bad guy now?
Yeah, but Terminator 1 is one of those situations where like nobody saw it. And then Terminator 2 was such a fucking phenomenon that people went back and they were like, what the fuck?
That's not true. Everybody saw Terminator. That's why Terminator 2 got made, is because everybody saw the first one.
Okay, but Terminator 1 was not. I guess that's where I'll Be Back comes from. But it was
a successful movie, which is why it got a sequel.
It wasn't
That's
the
what I was
cultural
trying to tell you.
phenomenon. Okay, you're probably right. I wasn't in my 20s.
That's why it has
80s.
an enormous budget as well.
I perceived it as like a Street Fighter 1 situation.
They made a Street Fighter 2? What do you mean the game?
The games.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
We're on a video game channel, so I will be bringing up video games constantly. Sorry, Steve.
It's okay. I just got to make sure you just don't say things that aren't true with like the confidence of a man who's telling the truth. No one saw Terminator 1, and that's why Terminator 2 is better.
My wife also loves when I do that.
Anyway, yeah. But I will not argue that Terminator 2 is like way, way better than Terminator 1. It definitely is. I don't even remember what happens in Terminator 1, really. He's a bad guy and he comes and he shoots them in a club or something, right? Like there's a club scene.
They're cruising. It's a road trip movie, basically.
And then there's a stop frame animation robot at the end chasing them, right?
Yeah. And also you get to John Connor's dad and John Connor's Kyle Reese and John Connor's mom, Sarah Connor. They have a 80s sex scene that me and my friends would definitely, do the old let's pause it and fast forward.
Let's see if we can find a nip slip up in here.
Oh, it's full frontal.
You get a little bit, yeah.
Oh, is it like a hardcore 80s one?
It's that 80s. It's like with the saxophone
exploitative
music.
sex scene.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. But the I'll Be Back scene is fucking great.
I've definitely seen the first one. I just can't remember any of it. Yeah. Remember Glass? We watched it today. Not directed by James Cameron.
I was doing a little bit of I was doing a little bit of research on it, and I guess there's two. I think I mentioned this earlier during the intro music part, I think. But there's two production companies involved with this, which to have two production companies get along with each other is usually unheard of.
Yeah, it's nightmarish to do because there's rules involved with both and money and all sorts of stuff. Like I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, like the not Return to Oz, but Oz the Great and Powerful, when that was being made, it was not being made by Warner Brothers.
Right.
Or sorry, it wasn't being made by MGM, so they had MGM lawyers on set every day to make sure that during the production they weren't breaking certain rules and using certain things that were copywritten by MGM. So stuff like the shade of green that the witch was copywritten by MGM, and they weren't allowed to have ruby slippers. And I think there was something with the yellow brick road that they couldn't use, and there was tons of stuff that they couldn't use for the Wizard of Oz. Even the iconography of like the design of, the Tin Man, the lion, the scarecrow, they just didn't use any of them because they're like, we're not allowed to emulate them whatsoever, so let's just not have them at all.
But also, the Oz Great and Powerful is like a prequel story about Oz, so it kind of works.
Yeah, it's not a great movie, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with like Sam Raimi went in there thinking that he could have a lot of creative freedom, and then there was lawyers being like, can't do that. No, we own that. You can't do that.
It must have been a similar thing for Return to Oz because they didn't use anything.
Oz
looked like a dystopian or a fucking post-apocalyptic Oz. Also, I think that was like part of the story.
Yeah, well, that's also why all the characters like that I listed, like the main characters from the first movie, they all look so different, and it's because they weren't allowed to use anything that looked remotely like how they looked in the original MGM movie.
In Oz Great and Powerful, does he have like a squad like in the other two Oz movies? Or does he
Yeah, sort of. He has like one of them is like a flying monkey he's got on his team, and then he's got like a porcelain doll person, and then he's got someone else. I don't remember I've only seen that movie once, and I was like, this is
the monkey's like
disappointing.
If I only had a brain heart. If I only had a spleen.
There's no singing either, so yeah. Anyway, that's a little lesson, I guess, for you guys if you didn't know that.
Well, I'm blessed.
Movie companies own so much about their movies that it becomes almost impossible to share rights. So it is kind of a weird miracle that this movie was made. But at the same time, I think that M. Night Shyamalan, his name was still a little bit muddied by some of his previous movies, even though he had made some good stuff between this and what people consider to be the ultimate flops. But this is another example of them giving him a modest budget to accomplish something, right? Like the movie is almost entirely set in one location.
Yeah.
They tease this like ultimate superhero fight at the end, and then they don't give it to you, which is really satisfying. I think.
I thought that was
they
good.
give it to you in a certain way.
I had a realization.
No, I know, but you have this image of like a tower fight, right? Like a Spider-Man style, like they're at the top of a building fighting each other with helicopters around, and then they don't give it to you, but then that's like part of the ultimate plan, and you're like, that's pretty great.
I had a realization moment where I was like, oh, you sly devils, you're making this all happen within the same building, not unlike Halloween Part 2 and the hospital. And I thought that was a good way to go because this movie didn't have the budget for that. It's a Blumhouse movie for all intents and purposes, and then the other production team I think is M. Night Shyamalan's production house.
He has like it's like Ruby Road or some shit. I can't remember what it's called, but
sorry.
Sorry,
I was saying sorry to M. Night.
Why are we apologizing to him?
Friend
for being obsessed with Philadelphia.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
He loves Philadelphia. I think he lives there, though.
He's from Philadelphia, isn't he?
Yeah. So he sets most of his movies there, and he almost exclusively films there. And I think part of that is like he's like, I like my city, and I know all these great places that we can shoot. He loves the town, so he's spending a lot of money in the town. So he's providing them with money. And also, I think there's a part of it where it's just like, I'm close to home. I can go sleep in my own bed every night and not have to like fly to London and stay there for 3 months while we film.
Yeah, he definitely cameoed.
See his family and stuff. Yeah.
He definitely cameoed again.
Well, he was playing the same character.
Yeah, which was neat.
Like he isn't playing different characters throughout this trilogy. He's playing the same guy, which is kind of cool. Like in this movie, his little cameo.
He grows from the first one though, like because he was like a drug dealer or something in Unbreakable.
Right? Yeah. In the movie, he like confronts David Dunn, and he's like, didn't you used to work at the stadium or something? And he's like, I turned my life around. I used to hang out with some shady characters because in Unbreakable, he gets caught with like drugs or something in his pocket.
It's his like first bust, right? In the first movie.
Yeah, he just has like a bag of pills.
His spider sense or whatever you want to call it. His Unbreakable sense.
In the second one though, he's like a pervert.
No, he's just
No, he just loves Hooters.
He's
Hooters lover.
Yeah.
Remember, he's Hooters lover, guys.
What was he
doing?
doing?
He's the wing guy.
What was he doing in that scene though?
He does the security footage or something. I think he controls the security room or something.
He was basically like the landlord of the building that the psychiatrist's office was in.
Oh, and that's why he was getting a security alarm in this one.
Yeah, because he says like one of my tenants was murdered in the zoo, so I want to like up my security to make sure that people aren't too scared to stay in my building. So he's just like a landlord, I guess.
So he's shitty.
Yeah, but he seemed pretty nice. He like went through all the footage with her and was like talking about how awesome Hooters is. I don't know. I can't really remember
He likes Hooters so much that he like gets takeout wings.
Yeah, he doesn't even eat the wings at the restaurant. He just goes and picks them up.
They're really delicious. Hooters wings.
I really liked his reaction, his like reaction expression when pretty sure David Dunn and his son were. David wanted to go for a walk, and his son was like, "No," or something like that.
Well, they're speaking in code, right? Like, walk means I'm going to go patrol the
I'm going to go
for
be
criminals.
Batman right quick.
Yeah. And he just thinks it's absurd that the son's trying to tell him not to go for a walk.
Yeah, he's like, let your dad go on a walk, man. Jesus. What the hell's wrong with you? He doesn't need to go on a walk right now.
And then David Dunn's like, I am the night.
I'm going to go on a walk.
I am vengeance.
Yo, those knockout videos, that was like an actual thing back in the day. People would like not like sucker punch someone from behind or whatever. Yeah. And it reminded me that thing was a thing, and it reminded me of how like pissed off and like
it's more
like whoever
than
did that was such a coward, basically.
It's more than that. Those did exist, but more prevalent. The ones that were more prevalent were the early prank videos where a white dude would walk into a black neighborhood and just be completely ignorant, and then that evolved into like planned / staged prank videos, and then they went away for a while, but then they've come back recently on TikTok and YouTube shorts and Instagram reels as like the families, the really super bad acting pranks where families prank each other, and it all stems from the early days of YouTube. I guess this movie does take place in 2018, right?
I think so.
I think that's relatively,
I think it's meant to take place in the year that it came out.
Yeah, so 2019.
Well, it came out 2019, but it's like 3 weeks, if I recall correctly, it's 3 weeks after Split.
So it's 2016. Yeah, it's 2016. Yeah.
So it's 3 weeks after January 1st, 2016.
It's January 3rd, 25th.
Yeah. So okay, cool. We got a timeline.
I like that they were able to do it all took place in the same set, like all in the same facility, but it was still over multiple days. Because sometimes I watched something recently. I think Glass Onion all just takes place in one day, and and
then there's like sort of a flashback that is like within the same week.
Yeah.
That movie was fucking good.
I love that movie.
I liked it a lot.
Is that the one where a guy tries to hold up a bank to get a job?
No, it's the Rian Johnson sequel-ish. He wants those movies, the Knives Out movies, to be... I read an article where he was like, I wish it wasn't called a Knives Out mystery. He just wants that character. He wants it to be like a series of novels where that detective...
like a Poirot, like an Agatha Christie or something.
Yeah, where that detective just shows up and gets himself into a sticky predicament.
Which is such a fun thing, because like, we love our Hercule Poirots and our Miss Marples and our fucking Murder She Wrotes, but like, give us like a modern day version of like a man who's just super good at solving puzzles and having to go.
And his boyfriend is Hugh Grant.
Batman.
Yeah, his boyfriend or husband is Hugh Grant, which is a really nice reveal. I like that.
No, he makes a point in the movie to say, "I'm not Batman." So
yeah, he literally says that because she's like, they keep referring to him as the world's greatest detective, and he's like, "Now listen, I am not Batman. I cannot just walk into a room and arrest a man."
So So our 10-second review of Glass Onion is
it's dope.
Definitely watch.
One of my favorite parts in that movie is like, a box arrived at my home and I had to solve a bunch of child's puzzles.
And they're all like, what? There's a whole scene where it takes them like all day to do it.
And then fucking Edward Norton is just like, children's puzzles?
Yeah.
Full of child's puzzles.
I think that because this movie was all kind of just one set, kind of like in general, I think it was one of the first things that kind of like threw me off the first watch, because like, again, like I went in with expectations, but the expectations those characters already had their movie. This was like Mr. Glass's movie, right? So this one was all about, you know, the mind or whatever, right? Like where like Unbreakable is like you know, David Dunn discovering who he is, you know, Split with Kevin, you know, realizing that, you know, he exists, kind of thing.
The Split is the whole thing is a misdirect. The whole thing is from start to finish. You're constantly being misdirected on what's really going on. Unbreakable is like the traditional strongman superhero with an actual
grounded superhero
with an actual kryptonite, and then this one, you're right, it's very cerebral and it's very twisty and turny.
They should have called it Gas for gaslighting, because this lady is trying to gaslight these motherfuckers the entire time. Hard. They're just Dr. basically Staple. She comes in there and she's like, all right, everybody, I know you think you're special super beings, but you're not, and here's why.
And then at the end she's like, I knew you were super beings all along, you jerks.
They call you Mr. Glass, they call me Mrs. Gaslight. Bingo, the gaslighter. Bingo.
Speaking of expectations, though, when I saw the trailer for this and I got hype about it, and it was already revealed to me that Split was in this universe, I had a moment. The trailer makes it seem like either David Dunn's going to get Glass and Split out to fight some next super boss, or some sort of plot like that. When I actually watched the movie today, I was like, oh, this is just the same. It's the same as the other two movies, where it's like a melodrama about people with really grounded superpowers. It's more like a thriller.
Yeah, it's kind of nice though, because like he tells very specific stories within these three movies, and they're all very different from one another, but they all kind of encapsulate the same tone and feel. Like they very much feel like they are continuations of one another and can take place in the same world, you know, like there's nothing drastically different from movie to movie that makes you think, oh no, this can't be in the same world, can it?
Yeah.
But also you get the sense that Unbreakable has been on an on-duty superhero for literally the last 15 years. Like,
yeah, in that the opening confrontation between the two of them, it's like the Horde has maybe heard of this guy, and this guy's definitely heard of the Horde. Obviously, he's been hunting him. Yeah. But that moment too between the two of them, where they're just throwing the table back and forth, is like so good, because it's something that you're watching it and you're like, holy fuck, but it also doesn't feel like something that could be absolutely impossible for two people to do. Just super unlikely, you know. But like, there's a TikTok going on right now where it's like one of the Waffle Houses in Florida or something, and someone hucks like a metal chair at just this tiny woman, and she grabs it and throws it, and you're like, ah! She like pulls like a Captain America, and you're like, holy fuck, and it's just like a regular person, right?
She grabs it like the fucking
she like grabs it and holds it there for a minute and then just throws it on the ground, and like the people in the Waffle House are like, oh fuck, we fucked with the wrong waffle.
I need you to send that to me the next time it comes up for you, because I need to see that.
Right, I'll try and find it. But yeah, the point I was trying to make is that like he does a good job of not particularly spoiling the idea of the fact that they could potentially just have this in their minds as like a mental illness, you know, because nothing in it is over the top, and the facts that she brings to the table when she's kind of deconstructing them is convincing enough that it would be enough to put doubt into David Dunn's mind. A bunch of the Horde, like not all the Horde, but a few of the Horde are like starting to not believe it. And I think the only person that doesn't is Mr. Glass, where he's just like, no. It's like, I am so smart. Like, you don't understand.
Also an expert at paintings and an expert at comic books, so
yeah, he knows a lot. And he also like he's already started manipulating them before this meeting, right before this deconstruction, where he's like, I've already figured all this out. Like, you can't break me.
This movie has
he tries to like hide his grin a little bit when she tells him that there's like over 100 like video cameras, whatever. There's a quick little kind of like grin, but then it's like he tries to hide it.
Yeah, there's several moments in this where you're like, how the fuck? And then it just shows Mr. Glass do some crazy like,
yeah, he's like, I'm so smart, like in his wheelchair, just like
changes out the lobotomy laser, fucking make like eats all doesn't eat any of the sedation. They make a note of mentioning earlier that the sedation is he's too smart for it. So even when they do fucking give him the juice in the arm, did he switch that out, or did he was he just too smart for it and it wore off?
I think he probably let them sedate him, but he'd already disabled the laser, so it didn't matter. He would just wake up. Yeah, and because it was like hours later or whatever. So he's probably like, I'll break their machine and then they'll put me under. Nothing's gonna happen to me because I'm gonna be fine. And then he slit the guy's throat, which was, I had forgotten about that, and I was like, oh god,
oh my god. And it's really brutal.
Mr. Glass using glasses.
It's from behind too. You just see him go. Yeah. The other thing I wanted,
like a quick swipe. Yeah.
I wanted to mention before we move on is that how the opening scene between Unbreakable going to find Split reminded me of the opening Batman bit from The Dark Knight, just expanded, obviously, with like, it's not just an action sequence where Batman where Joker's doing his thing. I guess Batman's not in that part, but what I'm trying to say here is it felt very much like a cold open in a superhero movie where you see the people doing their thing, and it felt very much like the superheroes going to take down the supervillain. They have that battle, then they get sent to the facility, and then it becomes a different thing. Like it's almost like they wanted us to feel like, oh, we're gonna get like a traditional superhero movie now, and then they're like, no, you're gonna get it like a Shawshank, no, not Shawshank,
which I think is
a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of vibe.
Yeah, and it's like the Horde doesn't really have a plan throughout Split. Like his plan is just to eat people who are shitty, like shitty entitled teenagers. And it doesn't seem like he has anything beyond that, right? It's like the Horde itself is there to feed the Beast, and the Beast is there to protect Kevin, and that's literally all his entire existence is just that, like, feed the Beast so the Beast can protect Kevin, and that's it. And then, you know, at this point in what do they call him? The Green Guard, which is kind of a cool name.
Overseer. But there is that
they call
scene...
me Overseer. Yeah, the Overseer, not a great name. I think the Green Guard is better, man. Yeah. The Green Guard sounds way cooler than
there was that
Overseer.
Scene of the son writing down catchphrases. Did anybody get a screenshot of that? I'll see if I can find that list.
He had like a list on a notepad, which is kind of fun. But then the Green Guard's whole point is to try and stop crime, I guess. But now he's found like a true Mr. Glass level supervillain that he's like, oh, I need to take this guy down before he eats more people. And Mr. Glass has been in jail, I guess, since the first movie, right? When he was arrested for derailing a train. But he also, I haven't seen Unbreakable in a while. He does multiple large scale disasters, doesn't he? Like it's not just the train, like
4 or 5, I think, or something like that.
He does like a bunch where hundreds and thousands of people have died from him, causing disasters. So yeah, that's like the setup is like we have the information about all of them already, and then what's the most interesting thing to do? I think that what they did is the most interesting thing to do. Lock them all in like an Arkham Asylum style situation and have them start questioning their own selves. Yeah. And then having the bad guys work together. And in a way, Mr. Glass is convincing Dunn to work with them as well. He's like, listen, here's the plan, and we're gonna go blow up this building, and the only way for that not to happen is for you to cooperate and come to the building as well. Little do we know that that's not actually the plan at all, and he has no intention of getting to the tower. He just wants to have them fight in front of all the extra security cameras on the front lawn of a big mental health facility, which I think is so cool. Like it is like, imagine a bunch of superheroes fighting on the open front lawn of Arkham Asylum, and nobody knowing that any of these people exist, and then all of a sudden just seeing like a man freeze another man, like Mr. Freeze is just like,
I couldn't find it, but they were funny. Freeze frame that the next time you watch the movie Glass.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them either. I didn't really kind of sit there to read them, but
I thought I'd be able to Google it and find it immediately.
Just feel like, pow, right in the kisser is one of them or something.
Yeah, it's like, I'm here to defeat you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought they were like what the culprits say.
Yeah, it was his son was writing down the funny things that the villains say before he kicks the shit out of them.
Oh, because I thought that was a list of catchphrases. Okay.
But yeah, like again, I don't know. I just wanted to underline it again, like the little tiny things that they do that prove to us that they are superhuman in a way are so cool. Like they're so subtle and cool, and it's not like, you know, you're watching an Iron Man where he totally disintegrates a van during a fight, or like, you know, flies through four walls. It's just like the two of them struggling up against a van and him trying to punch the Horde in the face and the Horde dodging it and his fist going into the truck, and then it cuts to the people inside of the truck just seeing these like fist print indentations like on the side of the van. I'm like, that's so cool. It's like Meteor Man, where they do these like small little things that are impressive and far more impressive than you would think them to be written on paper, but to see them in the movie, this movie that's supposed to be grounded heavily in reality with these subtle super beings. It's cool, man. It's cool. Glasterpiece. I'm telling you, it's a Glasterpiece.
There you go. That's I think that might be the rating.
Yeah.
My rating is ridiculous. I wrote it out this week.
So anyway, they are in this facility, and we have this mysterious doctor who has been called in specifically to deal with these three people, and she reveals to them that she specializes in people who believe that they have superhuman abilities. But she keeps saying
Ellie Staple, played by Sarah Paulson.
Yeah, and she doesn't say that. She says, I am here to treat you because you think you're a superhero from a comic book. Like, she literally is like slapping you in the face with a rolled up like action comic. These guys think they're superheroes. And I'm like, just say super beings or something, but you know, whatever.
Also, a little bit of a hat tip to Marvel and DC. I think there's like a news heading. The Takanaka Tower is like a Marvel, and then it's in Washington DC.
Oh,
that's pretty good.
I don't know how they can. Wasn't it called Osaka Tower?
It's Osaka Tower.
I might have said it wrong. My apologies if I did.
I don't know how they can see Osaka Tower from Philadelphia. Is Washington right next to Philadelphia?
I believe they are close, but not that close.
Okay, so it is the tallest tower in the state. Or maybe
no, it's just the city. It says the tallest structure in Philadelphia. They say it like a million times in the movie. The biggest building in Philadelphia. Even like when he gets home and puts up his raincoat, his poncho, he turns the radio on and you can hear like the Osaka Tower, the tallest tower in all of Philadelphia. Because like I've seen the movie a few times now, and I started to like realize how much they mention the tower throughout the entire movie. Like they are constantly talking about the tower the whole time. Even in background shots, you'll see like a newspaper behind somebody that has a picture of the tower being built, and like you'll see the TV with like the news reporter talking about the tower being unveiled, and it's everywhere.
When they cut to it at that one part where they're out in the parking lot and they cut to it and show it in the background, and it's got the helicopters flying around it, it really did feel like Spider-Man.
That's where they're going. Yeah, like they're going to the Statue of Liberty to fight all the supervillains at the end. Yeah, like, and that's kind of one of the things, like I've said it already, that I think is such a good misdirect even to us, right? Because we know he's misdirecting everybody else, and there's kind of the cheap ones where like they don't show things to you beforehand, so you can't piece it together yourself. Like it's impossible for you to piece it together. It's just a reveal, like dun dun dun. You're like, oh well, how would I have known that he snuck out and stole a bunch of magnifying glasses from inside of a laser? Like I knew that he snuck out and went on the computer, but it didn't show us anything else. Like if it showed him grabbing those lenses or something earlier, that thing is so bizarre looking that you wouldn't know what it is anyway. So if they had shown that a couple of times, or even just once, I would have at least been like, "What is that fucking thing?" And then
how do you know what piece to take though?
Because he's so fucking smart.
Yeah, but like. I'm not saying he's not smart.
He just disabled it and replaced a piece. Like at the end of the day, if you think
about
it like
you want me to logic it for you? He went on the internet and he looked up the make and model of the laser that they were going to use to lobotomize him, and figured out.
Did he have access to the internet, or did he do it right when he broke it?
They showed him on the internet looking up the.
He's been leaving his room every night. is what I gathered from that.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that answers my next question then. How did he make the fake pills?
How did he make the fake pills? He used aspirin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was under the impression because I thought it was just that one time he left his room, but like you saying that he's been leaving multiple times, that makes sense.
No, he just got seen that one time because he wanted to be seen.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
He spins around in front of the so he goes into the security room because he knows he has enough time between the guard switches, which they do explain. And it does show him on the internet before the reveal of him fucking around with everything. But you then are like, okay, so he has all this medicine and he says he's been switching it out for aspirin. They check the medication that they give for psychiatric drugs, but they're not going to check a bottle of aspirin and they're not going to inventory a bottle of aspirin. So he's probably just taking a handful of aspirin and then doing his sleight of hand like he says he does and then hide the thing in the arm. There are ways to logic around that. The one thing that I'm kind of like, is like, just have that little lens thing earlier so that I can have had a chance, give me like a detective's chance. But if you're not going to give me information at all, then I feel like you pulled the wool over my eyes.
Well, then you get the M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Yeah, that's the twist.
Exactly. I mean, and that is one of the twists is that he's not mute. He has been leaving his room and doing all this crazy stuff, but that's not really a big twist. The main twist is that we find out that the train killed what's his name's dad to essentially create the beast.
But I thought that was revealed in Split.
No, it wasn't. We talked about it in our Split review, and I apologize because I was mixing up a scene from this movie with Split.
But he goes to the train.
He goes to the train.
Know that it's...
We know that his dad died in a train accident, but we don't know that it's the same train until this movie. Yeah.
Oh well, I just put it together that it was the same train on my own then.
Well, we talked about it during the Split review.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was my bad because I was like,
movie,
they say it, Mr. Glass fucking killed his dad.
When I was watching the movie, though, I was like, if I hadn't known that Split was in the Unbreakable universe, then all of this changes. But since I knew it was in the Unbreakable universe, watching the whole movie, and they kept showing stuff with trains, I was like, his dad died on the train.
But also, that's not the only twist, right? The other twist is that they all die. And then the other twist is that they all die to a weird organization of clover tattooed secret society people.
In my opinion, that's the biggest twist, that there's a almost like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Illuminati. Or the Owl Society. Or
the Owls,
superhero killers.
Society of Owls, or the fucking Hydra. They're basically...
Guys, it's called the Court of Owls. Can you smarten up, please?
Sorry, Batman.
My bad.
I
do like the logo of the 3-leaf clover, though, because... Obviously, so a 3-leaf clover is normal as opposed to like a 4-leaf clover is special, and so like they want to keep things normal, right?
No, that's pretty cool visual storytelling for sure. Like I also was like, it's a clover. Why is that? Why is it not a 4-leaf clover? I'm like, oh yeah, because that would be the superhero would have the 4-leaf clover, right?
Also, it's
like they're the common people who are trying to keep the super beings from taking over the world.
I highly doubt this franchise goes any further because I don't know if it has the interest, and I don't know if he expected it to have the interest, but somewhere down the road, if he ever decides to do a TV show, they did leave it open-ended because she's like, now we're going to go to the next town.
There's others,
We're going to go to the next town and
it's
find
Mr. Glass's mom, and she's like, now she's a super villain.
But no, there's probably like a handful of people in various cities or whatever that maybe haven't even realized their potential yet, because Mr. Glass has created
the thing that created the Inhumans in Marvel Comics, and that's how they have the powers activated.
It's called the Terrigen Mists.
I did that on purpose to see if you would 2 times in 5 minutes, just correct.
I do it all the times. No, yeah, I mean, it's not that I wouldn't want to see it, because I think it would be kind of cool if they, like Kalen, like you were saying, it would prove to everybody that, oh, these people exist, and then it might awaken somebody's potential, being like, can I maybe fly? And then they like do something crazy, right?
They have to keep telling stories that are grounded like these 3 movies.
Exactly.
It can't just become fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because
fantastical.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of started out in a way that I think there's potential for this to be a show or another trilogy or
and I like that.
But now they're like, oh, people don't want that shit because it's also written poorly. People don't want poorly written, like, people with no powers going after people with like level 1 fucking superpowers. I either want like these guy style superheroes where it's like they could just be really good. Like when she's like, isn't it possible that you're just extremely good at being a mentalist? You have mentalist abilities, and he's like, he kind of gets shaken.
You are a mentalist.
He's like, I've never taken any magician lessons.
I've never taken mentalism. Yeah, but I agree. I think they would have to do that as well. I was watching a movie called *Malignant* the other day, and I knew we were getting ready to do Glass. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with *Malignant*, but it's the guy who made the first Saw movie, and then he made
Eli Roth.
No, James Wan.
He did Cabin.
Yeah.
Hold on. Saw movie. IMDb.
While you're looking that up, cool little perspective I was reading.
Yeah,
online.
James Wan.
Pardon?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll finish what I was saying when you're done.
Well, did you find it? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's James. I was right. It was James Wan. But yeah, he made a bunch of other like high concept horror movies.
Did he make Mother?
No. That's like an Italian filmmaker. That's more of like a heady, like, this is the Bible. This movie is the Bible.
And also it's fun though, isn't it? Like it's
like
a Hereditary.
With the robot.
It's kind of like a Hereditary, but it's more just like an inaccurate retelling of the Bible. Like this woman is supposed to be giving birth to Jesus or some shit.
Right.
Just Mother is not my cup of tea.
Malignant, though.
Malignant, on the other hand. Anyway, he's made a bunch of like high concept horror movies that are just like, here's the premise, and like, it's craziness. And like the premise of *Malignant* is bananas. And when they do the reveal, I'm like, this could be a weird next level villain in the Unbreakable universe, even though it's like a little bit too high up there. It's like everything that's happening that they're doing, there's not really anything crazy supernatural going on. It's like it could potentially exist, messed up as much as any of these other ones could exist, kind of thing. And I'm like, there's still room for them to have more weirdos that appear in this universe. It's just like, what direction do you want to take it in? And do you want it to be a nice story in the way of Unbreakable, or do you want it to be a disturbing story in the way of Split, or do you want it to be something completely different and new, right? Because that's the one thing that I think is cool about this movie, is that it feels like it takes place in the same universe as the other two, but it's telling its own story, and it has a very different style of storytelling in terms of tone, and it also has an identity, its own identity.
It's the most superhero movie of the three, I would say. It has
it has
a battle in a parking lot. It has
it's the diabolical villain,
but it has to be that, because the other two movies going in, you don't know that. You don't know that Split's a superhero movie, and you don't know that Unbreakable is a superhero movie. It's impossible to go into this movie without already knowing that it's a superhero movie, right? So they had to go to that next level of like, the evil villain is now going to make a diabolical plan, and he's going to use the Horde as his henchman, and he's going to use it to show the world that superheroes exist, which is very
that's
cool.
why that
like
first
the bad guys teaming up.
That first scene, we get like a really superhero-y like back and forth between Split and Unbreakable, and Joseph, his son, is the man in the chair character. You know what I mean? Like they have a secret base with a front. Split's got a new layer. He's up to his old tricks. He's got 4 cheerleaders this time. He had 3 girls before, but they're all just nameless, faceless actors that play the cheerleaders. So it's just like, you don't have the Anya Taylor-Joy character this time. You just have, she's
there, but
no, she comes into the story later.
He's talking about the 4 cheerleaders. There is one that's like, seems like she's trying to do the same thing that Joy did in the other movie. Like she's trying to talk to him, the 9-year-old, and being like, come on, man, like, let's just talk to us, like, what's going on? And she's trying to do the same thing, but she clearly doesn't have the same trauma to like
to be able to like
from to like to relate to him.
Anya Taylor-Joy, we at the very beginning we get a very good payoff for me, because I was like, I was sure that she was going to be fine at the end, but we ended the Split podcast going like, You guys knew, but I didn't, and I was very much like, what if she doesn't? What if it doesn't turn out for her? But, she's got a
Jason is referring to the fact that she turned in her perverted uncle and put him in jail.
Yeah, but you don't know for sure, and we talked about
at the end of the movie.
Answer, but from my point of view, I didn't know what happens, and it's kind of like, well, these kinds of situations don't always resolve themselves, and this movie is very realistic. So, but yes, she was A-okay, at least on that side of things.
Yeah, and now he went to jail for a little while, and then he got a job at a paper company warehouse, and he drew a bunch of butts on somebody's painting.
And then he joined the police. Then he joined the police force and had to go. There was a riot at a all women's prison, and he had to go there and shut it down.
Yeah, and then in the distant future, he worked in a giant oil rig that was building a huge wall to keep kaiju out of Tokyo.
Oh, is he
and then the Pacific Rim showed up to stop.
John Pacific Rim shows up. John Pacific Rim from Sons of Anarchy shows up in Idris
I watched Pacific Rim like 2 days ago, and I was like, hey, it's that fucking
the first one,
her from Split. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah.
Charlie Day's like the like comic relief character in that too, when they were trying to make Charlie Day a thing. Not just Charlie.
Well, I mean, Guillermo del Toro is also one of those guys that, like, he if he likes an actor, he asks them if they want to be in it. So he probably is a fan of It's Always Sunny and was like,
he's in an episode of It's Always Sunny. He's one of the McPoyles.
Guillermo del Toro is?
Yeah.
The director?
Yes.
What?
He's one of the McPoyles in the court case when all the McPoyles show up.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that. So yeah, they're probably buddies. Like he probably asked him if he wanted to be in Pacific Rim because he was probably writing it and also watching It's Always Sunny and was probably like, "Hey, you want to be in my movie?"
Yeah, he's Pappy McPoyle. He's the patriarch of the whole family.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, man.
That's funny. I need to watch that episode.
The episode is really. It's a more recent one, so it's just balls to the wall, and it's like this court case, and all the McPoyles show. There's other cameos too. But it's good. He's got like a hat. Anyway, I won't spoil.
He is a very funny man. So I like Guillermo del Toro is like.
Yeah, he's in Death Stranding as a character. Like he can act.
Yeah, well, he was trying to make that Silent Hills game with Kojima, right?
Which they might still make.
Hopefully, that PT was crazy, man. Crazy. We had play parties with that. The scariest thing ever made. Guillermo del Toro's. This is like a quote of his, or they're like. When people are trying to make scary things, they say we're gonna get these people to piss themselves, but I want them to shit themselves. They play this game.
Yeah, that sounds him. Guy. That sounds like him.
One of my friends worked on that show that came out recently on Netflix,
The Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yeah, and he wasn't directing a bunch of stuff, but he was a showrunner, so he was there all the time, and. The quote that my friend gave me was so funny, which is like, he's a very large guy, right? And he's walking with a cane, and he looks to my friend in the hallway. They like almost hit each other, and my friend is trying to get out of the way, and Guillermo del Toro looks him in the eye and he says, "One of these days, man, I'm gonna wipe out, and I'm not gonna get back up." It's like it walks away. It's like, oh my god.
I want to hang out with Guillermo del Toro.
He sounds like a hoot.
Check this out, though. Check this out. So, 3-leaf clovers.
Rails.
Normal. Try to keep things normal. Try to keep things in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Dr. Staple. And then a staple is in the middle of the comics. So it's like halfway through the beginning and the end. And so it keeps things in order. And I thought that was a cool little tidbit.
Kaylin, that's insanely profound, and I love you for doing that, because I spent 2 hours and 9 minutes trying to fucking figure out why her name, because names, especially in comic book things, especially in sci-fi, there's like an acting there's a writing technique that says you don't have normal ass names ever. You make the more ridiculous the better, because not only do you remember it, but if you give them names that pertain to their their role in the story.
Almost like a metaphor.
Yeah, it adds that extra layer. So I'm sitting here going, this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie, written and directed. What does the fucking staple signify? And I fucking... You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind. Thank you. That's your Christmas gift to me.
I have a quick update about the glass onion, by the way.
Oh, shit.
One of our viewers messaged me on our phone, or on my phone, and
Our
said...
phone.
And said it's a tweet from Ryan Johnson, and it says, "I would love to bring back Hugh Grant in some capacity for the third movie. I love that he was Daniel Craig's husband, and I really want a scene with the two of them together." And then everybody was like, "I totally missed that. I thought that he was the butler." And then someone said, "I thought they were just flatmates because it's 2022 and the rent is too damn high."
The Benny, yeah, that's funny. The Benny Blanc, what's his name? Barry Blanc.
Dubois.
Yeah. Anyway,
Blanc Dubois
is his gay subplot is amazing because it's so subtle and it's not like it doesn't.
But then you're like, oh.
But then you're like, oh, that's why he dresses like that. That's why he always has a fucking neckerchief
ascot,
on. An ascot, yeah. Yeah, that's why he's like.
And his bathing suit is a shirt and pants that match.
Yeah, he's just waiting. He's waiting in the pool drinking hard kombucha. Anyway. Watch Glass Onion.
How many of these have you had? This is 9% alcohol.
Nice. He hands her the fucking glass.
This is Jared Leto's hot kombucha. How many of these have you had?
Yeah, don't spoil too much because everything in that movie, it's a lot like this where there's just layers. It's like an onion, which is an act.
Also, title shout out: 1 hour 9 minutes 21 seconds.
Kaylin.
What?
I had... Wait, sorry, say that again?
1 hour, 9 minutes, 21 seconds.
Wow, we had the same. Exactly the same.
Is it when he says first name Mr., second name Glass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
which is
I wrote
great.
1 hour, 9 minutes, 22 seconds, and I was like, we're gonna be off by like a second.
Like how funny is that line though? Like it's an insane
first
thing
name
to say
Mister.
Last name Glass. Like
and his necklace piece or whatever is MG.
Yeah. I would be interested to know, because I don't know the answer, was that written in the script or did Sam Jackson ad-lib that? And I want to know which is the truth, because it sounds like something that he would write, because M. Night Shyamalan always has weird fucking lines in his movies, but we know that Sam Jackson can bust out like an improv every once in a while that gets put into the final cut, and that seems like something that he might like roll up in a wheelchair on set and be like, first name Mr., last name Glass, give me some coffee.
I wonder if Bad Motherfucker was hiding anywhere on like any of his props or anything.
Is that
thing? So the one arm on his wheelchair he opens and it has all the pills in it. The other one just has like Bad Motherfucker embroidered underneath it.
You open it and it just plays. Did he look like a bitch?
Yeah. I said, does he look like a bitch?
Wasn't there a theory that he got his lightsaber engraved with those initials?
It's not a theory. It's, I believe, true. Like it's just very subtle, so you can't actually see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, that's one of the few Lego figurines I didn't get for Christmas this year.
You know what's one of the coolest things about those prequels is that George Lucas would walk around with a box of lightsabers and he would just let you as the actor choose which one you wanted. Like they weren't like, this is Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Like they would bring you a box of lightsabers and you got to choose which one. Like George Lucas would look at and approve like 5 and then say, just take this to Ewan and then he can choose. And they did that with like all the main cast actors, and like Sam Jackson I believe got to pick his as well, and he's like, I picked this one because it has sick ass gold on it, and also like, yours is cool.
The hilt, just the hilt, obviously because the colors of the actual saber like mean things, right?
Yeah. And
didn't he make them add purple though?
Yes. George Lucas was like, you get blue or green, and then Sam Jackson was like, is there purple lightsabers? And George Lucas was like, no. And he's we could maybe do purple though. And he's like, we'll talk about it. And then the movie, he got to the movie and he's fucking hacking people with a purple lightsaber. And you're like, yes. And then they wrote in Star Wars lore why his lightsaber is purple, and it's so cool. And I don't know if you'll indulge me for a moment, but George Lucas wrote that like Mace Windu was this really powerful Jedi who he didn't study the dark side, but he would use attributes of the dark side in his training to be able to like have a balance between light and dark.
Red and blue is purple.
To the point that he used 2 different crystals inside of his lightsaber, which created a purple blade. I don't know if that's still the actual lore, but that was the lore at one point, which I thought was really cool, because red and blue make purple, but that's not how light works. That's how like painting works.
Yeah, but also lightsabers aren't how light works. So
I know. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Speaking of colors, so I was reading about the 3 colors used in this, or for each character. So purple, I guess, being associated with royalty, and Elijah thinking highly of himself. The mustard.
Also, it's Sam Jackson's favorite color is purple. Just so you know.
It worked. I guess it worked out. Although maybe he made him pick it.
I mean, he was there in the first movie. He might have had he had purple motif.
I am quite sure he was wearing a lot of purple in the first movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, he was all purple for sure. Yeah. Even when he was a kid, actually, I think. The mustard yellow, I guess, kind of ties in with like religious kind of garbs, like you see monks with kind of like a yellowy kind of thing, and where. Like the thing that I was reading was kind of saying that the beast was being kind of preachy, sort of about like what his intentions
the
were,
beast is a religious deity to the rest of the horde. They all look at him like this god.
So he also has this sort of weird regimented code, right?
Yeah,
where he's
got
like
rules.
Religiously, he's like, I'm going to eat these people because they have no understanding of pain and torment and being broken. But if you find somebody who is broken, he's like, you are like us. Yeah. You are part of the horde.
Yeah. And then green is associated with life, and David being a protector of life.
Yeah, I remember when the movie first came out, there was a lot of like analytical videos and stuff going around, and that was one of the main talking points was the 3 colors, and I think it's pretty cool. But also that room that they're all in, that they take them all into, it's like this weird like sort of sickly pink color. And I read into that, and apparently they, in a lot of older mental institutions, they would paint rooms that color entirely because it slowly kind of breaks you down mentally to becoming super docile, because it's just this like sort of like
dull,
monotonous dullness, and it removes like all aggression.
It's
almost like hypnosis. It's so strange.
I read about that because I think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest has that, and then in American Horror Story Asylum it has that too. That movie,
I'm not sure like how it works in terms of like brain chemistry, but it's pretty disturbing.
It's probably,
I would say that there's truth there.
It's probably similar to like how McDonald's is yellow and red, because those 2 colors trigger your like hunger response.
They're also like the most predominant colors in terms of catching your attention.
Also, yeah, that. So it's not like that color of pink immediately is going to make you break. It's a thing where that color being there to do that is better than that color not being there if they intend to do that.
No, I know. It's just like the idea of it that you can paint a whole room a specific color and it will affect somebody mentally is like.
Well, I mean, have you ever been in the month of September and the time changes and suddenly it's fucking 3:30 in the afternoon and it's dusk?
Yeah, and everybody's like, I'm sleepy now.
Yeah, that,
I'm so tired.
That, for all intents and purposes, is just a color, it's a color change.
Or a lack of color.
Or a lack of color. You know how I work in an office, and those fucking fluorescent lights make me tired.
I don't understand why they still do it, man.
I'm so zapped.
Figure it out, world.
Yeah.
Switch the lights.
It's because it's an oppression thing. I've got my fucking cuffs and my collar on, man.
They want to make you docile. And
I think it's also a financial thing. So I think it's like the cheapest way to like light a massive room is to do that.
Okay, so there's I saw a good conspiracy adjacent theory, like what I'm talking about with fluorescent light, and it's like, why do they fill our cities with male trees that just make us sick with allergies instead of filling our cities with female trees which produce fruit free for everybody, that have no dander? You know what I mean?
That sounds awesome.
It's one of those, like, you could take it as like that, it's just cheaper to do it this way, or it's cheaper and
there are certain places in the world that don't follow that, and you can just walk down the street and pull a fruit off of the tree and eat it, right? And Absolutely. Like, it's pretty crazy. I would assume the reason they don't do it is so that we can't just eat the fruit and then huck it everywhere. But the fruit's also going to fall off and rot everywhere. You're going to step in a big orange and slide.
There's that element
sidewalk.
of
It would
too.
smell like rotting fruit everywhere. It'd be
There's
disgusting.
the rational way to look at it, and if there were fucking fruit trees everywhere, it would be a fucking slippery mess.
It would stink.
It's
would
not
be
like you're not.
stinky,
It's
yeah.
not like you're not allowed to fucking have a garden. If you have space for a garden, you can absolutely have a garden. You can have chickens if you want, and also if you have a balcony, there's nobody stopping you from having a garden. We have a little hydroponic thing that we grow.
Oh yeah.
No, we've never grown weed in it, but we grow other herbs in it, and have we had an oregano plant that we had going for literally almost a whole year. Every time you cut the top off, it would keep growing, and we just always had fresh basil. So
Nice.
Basil. That's going to be Hugh Grant's name in the second. Or the next
I'm
Onion
surprised
movie.
it's not his name in this movie.
Is
He
it
was
going to be
playing-
Claire and Charlie's Angels movie?
This is my husband.
He was playing Hugh Grant though, right? Like when they're playing Among Us in that, they're all like this Natasha Lyonne and 3 other actors playing themselves. Was he?
Yeah,
Hugh
but Daniel
Grant?
Craig isn't playing himself.
I know, that's fine. But Daniel Craig's
So
character,
why would-
Dubois,
Why
it's
would
just-
Blank Dubois be married to Hugh Grant?
Why not? That's hilarious. That's a funny joke to me. I know Hugh Grant's not like gay in real life, like not out gay,
Yeah.
but he wasn't there a scandal in the 90s where he was like busted with a male prostitute, or was it just a regular type?
I cannot tell you because I don't know.
Just that's right.
I know is that they do the "you're not in the bath again, are you?" And then he goes, "No." And then later when they do that scene again, it's him, and he's like, "You're not in the bath." You get to see that it's him this time, which is funny.
I'd also like to apologize. I just insinuated that female prostitutes are regular type prostitutes, whereas male prostitutes are not regular.
I applaud you catching yourself.
I didn't say gay though.
prostitute.
I said male, so it could be
Male.
a gigolo or a male gigolo for gay men.
I don't think I could be a gigolo.
Something tells me that the gigolos who are for women probably also deal with men as well.
They must.
They're probably just like whatever.
Whatever.
They have to
It's-
take whatever business comes.
Not all, but I'm assuming that most. But
Gay
I
for
don't know.
pay is very
Know a lot
prevalent.
I've only met like 1 or 2 male sex workers in my life, and I
Utilize
only knew them.
both of their services.
And I had a good week.
Jesus.
No,
That must have been expensive.
I never fully asked them if they have like a preferred clientele or if they like how do they work. So
And this, of course, is a subplot in the movie Glass.
yeah, Mr. Ass shows up and
Yeah.
he's like, "Hello."
Hello.
We do get Dennis, I believe, is the persona where the pants have blood on them, like they're ruined. We got to clean these pants.
Yeah.
He's very adamant about.
They did a thing at the end of Split where they made you kind of feel bad for Dennis, and you started to like realize just how manipulated he was and how weak he is and how he's almost like the most pathetic form. And it's sort of like tried to let him off the hook a little bit for his weird proclivities, and
But
You-
he has
you
the
forget about that.
proclivities.
huh?
Dennis has the proclivities.
I know what I'm saying is that you forget about that, and in this movie he doesn't really have them anymore, or at least they're not discussed. And then, but there is a moment where they're about to go to the tower, and he just throws those 2 women in the back of the car, and then locks them in there. I'm like, Dennis, calm down. You gotta go to the tower to fight. Why are you kidnapping people again?
I mean, he does have the 4 cheerleaders that are literally teenagers. At
No,
the very
I know,
beginning.
I know. What I'm saying is that the movie does a capable job of making you feel bad for somebody that you.
A little
I
bit
feel
of
bad. I think Barry has it the worst. Barry seemed in Split, and then in this, he just pops into it. And he's like, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah, he only has like a very couple of brief moments of
Like,
delight,
how did I get here?
yeah,
That
we're all
was
like,
good.
bring back Barry, and then what's her name, Jade, shows up to
Her
try and
Jade.
seduce the guard.
Oh
Which
yeah,
is-
yeah, yeah. That was kind of
Jade's
funny.
super hot and diabetic.
Yeah, you know what's hotter
her
than
Tinder
being hot? Diabetes hot.
Yeah. Can you pick? I really, speaking of the switching between characters bits in this, I really enjoy his splits, like his kryptonite or his like
the light
flat, like the strobe flashes the strobe flashes that change his.
Oh yeah,
it is change
cool.
him.
The sound design there was really cool too, because in reality there wouldn't be no like there wouldn't be a noise like that. It would just be a flickering light. But like they add this thing that makes it feel like
kind of
it's
like a camera going off.
Or it's almost like a force field, like he's being blasted backwards, right? Like it's almost like he's being hit with like a laser beam, and it's just like blanking you out. And like we were talking about in Split,
what if they bring back one of the crappy or like because it seems random from what I could tell.
They did, but the thing is like there's only a few this is how I interpret it. Only a few personalities are strong enough to stay in the light, and it's like Hedwig and Dennis and Patricia. Dennis and Patricia, of course, are like the patriarchy and matriarchy of the whole horde.
Yeah, right. Well, it was also bringing out
the Beast,
ones we never saw in the first movie, right?
And
like it did seem random. Like it seemed like when the light hits, it was like scrambling around the circle and a random because there was even a moment where one of them's like, I'm not supposed to be in the light. Like I'm never supposed to have the light. Like, why the fuck do I have the light right now? And then they quickly get taken out again when he's like flipping it over and over again.
I took it as like it's a circle of people sitting in a circle at that time, and it's going from person to person, not random, like not bouncing around.
Oh right, okay.
That's how I perceived it. Like it doesn't matter because if they're sitting in a circle, it's random. We'd have to have it be a plot device of it. Oh, it's coming back around to Jade, so Jade's going to be up next. So it's more likely that it is random. But for the sake of this film, it felt like it was going from person to person rather than bouncing randomly.
Gotcha.
I know it's the same.
That's like
thing.
a question
Similar
we can't
different.
ever
Same
get to
different.
or answer because it's not part of it, right?
If I ever go to a panel with M. Night Shyamalan, I'm gonna be like, is it a circle or is it bouncing around?
Well,
randomly?
no, they in the first movie they do talk about it being a circle of people sitting in chairs. Yeah, and then like one person goes into the middle, and that's the person that has the light, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's how he described it to his therapist in the first movie.
Yeah.
But it was also just kind of fun to see some of the other ones that we didn't get to see in the first movie and to see just how many of them there are. I don't know if I tracked if any of them were new from the last to this.
I think but
the one thing that I did track is that they all had their own toothbrushes, which is kind of
yeah.
When he goes over to the shelf and there's just like 2 cups full of toothbrushes, you're like, oh, these are for all of his personas. They all have their own toothbrush.
I remember what you were talking about, but I didn't clue into it when I was watching it.
Yeah.
The only one.
Some of them were unopened, which means that person probably never popped in to be like,
oh yeah,
they don't brush their teeth. Like
Hedwig. Jade.
Hedwig probably doesn't brush his teeth. He's a fucking 9-year-old weirdo who loves Drake but not Nikki because they broke up, and you can like one but not the other, which is weirdly on point for that era.
Well, that's like when I was a kid, you weren't allowed to like Star Trek and Star Wars. You had to pick one.
Or the other.
And I was like, why can't I like both? It's like, you can only like one. I'm like, okay, Star Wars then? It has cool swords.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to like video game music as a genre of music. It's just the thing in a video game. Well, joke's on you.
They have orchestras of that
bullies.
shit.
I've been to several.
I mean, that's
Steve.
That's just soundtrack music. That's like me when I was a kid. I like music. I like all music, which is why I got really upset with you guys during the fucking what was that movie we watched with Tupac? What was it called again?
Oh, Juice.
Juice.
Because you guys were insinuating that I don't like hip hop music, and I was like, I like all music, man. Stop.
Did we insinuate that?
Yes.
Well,
Jason kept comparing me to a man yelling at a cloud. And I was like, you're missing my point.
Was being funny, and I retroactively will apologize. It is our end of the year episode where we will coming next.
We got to
year,
air out our dirty laundry.
Yeah, coming.
And I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're gonna hear about it.
Let's not air our dirty laundry because those that can stay in the closet. But
the viewers don't want that.
No, but I will say, just
here live, Jason's telling me to get back in the closet, and I don't appreciate it.
Oh snap!
Just mid-episode here, I'd like to say that starting next month, there's going to be a bit of a overhaul of the whole shit. We got some cool pictures that we're coming at you with 7 different
kinds of smoke.
We're gonna come at you with 7 different kinds of smoke. We got guests. We got the 3 of us. nude. Oh, OnlyFans.
Nude? I'm a never nude. Don't you guys know this about me?
So am I.
Yeah.
And I think Kalen
so much so
well,
that whenever I make a character in The Sims, they're also a never nude. I'm not allowed to see their pixelated junk.
I go to the nude beach at least once every summer.
Do you go full balls?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad I now know that about you. Let's continue our discussion of Glass.
Well, I feel it wouldn't be appropriate if I wasn't nude and everyone else was nude.
I mean, I've been to a nude beach, and I'm like, I'm not taking my fucking pants off for these pervs.
The nude beach, I haven't been to the nude beach, but
I don't feel comfortable being naked when I'm alone.
It is the nude beach here isn't this like utopia of young, sexy nudes. It's old dudes with their twig and berries.
Yeah, exactly. You got nothing to worry about.
You can find some younger people there that are hot, but like at the same time, that's not why you go there. And if you are looking at people like that, you feel weird. You're like, what is this? Why am I here?
I'm going there to get some sun on my bum.
One thing I know that is impossible when I'm so uncomfortable that it is impossible for me to become aroused. I'm like, this is so like weird that I'm like the opposite of aroused.
I'm ready to go because I'd be walking around with just a massive 19-inch boner.
You do
just
see
knocking
some
over
people,
people's glasses.
There was an older man there, and he was walking around with a huge erection, and there was another guy who had a cock ring that was keeping his wiener like slightly inflated but not fully, and then he disappeared and came back and had a whole new cock ring on, and I was like, this guy has multiple cock rings.
I'm calling the police.
He did a wardrobe change.
Sounds like he had some fun with someone and he had to switch it up.
I'm calling the actual Air Force on this conversation. Rails.
All right, yeah, let's stop talking about this. So then Mr. Glass
gets his cock ring on, and it breaks his dick in half because
he's like, oh!
Even though the male penis isn't a real bone, when it gets hard like that, it's one of his super kryptonites shatters.
Also, I must say, what is it about movies in these settings where the orderlies are always just the scummiest people? You know, like I'm sure
movie.
That's
Billy
like they have to be bad.
Happy Gilmore. Orange is the New
Black.
Like
they made the guy kind of a perv, right? The one that came in and kept switching the lights, because like when he was Jade, he was hitting on the guard, and the guard was like weirdly into it, right?
Well, also,
like, oh, yeah.
Also he says something to the effect of like, "Not again, like we're not doing this again."
Yeah, so which means that he probably is like excited when that happens, right?
He's horny for.
He's Jade he's horny for one of the Horde's personas, which is kind of strange. And then the other guy who's taking care of Elijah,
it's just blackmailing him the whole time. Like, I will smash your bones, little man.
Before that, he's being like, we didn't need this lady to come in here. We've been taking care of you, just me and you, all this time, and it's been great. And you're like, oh, is this like his buddy? And then later with the flashlight stuff, you're like, oh no, he's like a torturer almost. Like he just wants the paycheck and doesn't actually care about this guy. Yeah. And I'm kind of upset that guy didn't get his throat slit. But I mean, he did get like a pretty horrible death later.
How did he die?
He got crushed.
Right. Oh yeah, he got squeezed up, which is a shitty way to go.
This would be the part in the comics where your eyes bulge out and there'd be some air bubbles with question marks above your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good line. Yeah, it's like you can't just have some normal like people. But then like the guy who got his throat slit, every other moment except for that, except for the moment where he was being pervy, he seemed like he was pleasant, though he was annoying. Remember when he's like giving that guy all those health tips or whatever? You're like, oh god, one of these fuckers. But he seemed nice to everybody else, except they had to throw in the fact that he's a weird pervert and probably wants to like do the Sarah Connor thing and lick Jade when she's sleeping.
Yeah, but that guy gets his comeuppance.
Who, Jade? Or not?
Those are some of the worst people. The
ones that guy, yeah, he gets T-boned in the side of his head with a mop handle or whatever.
Yeah, that's another movie where the fucking orderlies are the worst.
All of them.
Oh, the whole institution is like, she's crazy.
Also, let's
she's talking about robots from the future. Fuck.
Yeah. Also, she looks good in that gown.
Yeah. Ugh, that guy licks her is just like, that's one thing that like haunts my mind about like a unconscious person strapped down. Anytime I see it, I think of that scene. I'm like,
I rewatched Terminator 2 like in an era before I was desensitized to like everything, and the scene where she mop handles the dude in the head is the worst part. It's the most realistic.
But then you watch it now and you're like, oh, it's just a guy with fake blood in his mouth and he goes, like spits it out. You know what's way worse? It's the guy who gets the thing through the eyeball.
T-1000 with the fucking hook hand is way more brutal, but it's just at the time I remember watching it like it was on TV, but it was on a channel that like showed stuff, so it might maybe like Showcase, and I was watching
or the space channel or whatever
maybe,
it was called.
Maybe it was Space.
It's Showcase after 11. We show the eyeball puncturing.
We show the ear getting cut off in Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dog. They don't show the ear getting cut off. That's the whole point.
Oh yeah, they heavily insinuate.
The whole point of that.
Show him getting his ear cut off and heavily doused in gas.
They just hear him screaming about it. So anyway, I just wanted to make the point that orderlies in every movie involving a mental health facility.
Oh, they showed in the Itchy and Scratchy cartoon. Sorry.
Right, yeah. And then Quentin Tarantino shows up and he's like, you don't understand what I'm trying to say, and then he cuts off Quentin Tarantino's head or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go back because I remember that gag, but was that actually Quentin Tarantino doing a guest of
probably, because I think it's a Treehouse of Horror,
awesome.
Probably, right?
Well, the thing about Itchy and Scratchy is that they can do that in any episode, and it fits. You don't have to make it a Treehouse, because that their cartoon show is just like
maybe it is. I'm watching overly
overly violent
now, and I'm about to get into season 3 when it starts to get like season 2
when it gets good,
but season 3 gets like really good.
Yeah, we got to make a bra bomb.
Yeah.
I feel like we are getting close to our destination.
Undead. Nope. Wrong movie. Laser lobotomy.
We've gone through most of it. It's not really an overly complicated movie. There's just a lot going on, and it does feel like a very decent sequel to 2 movies. It's like he accomplished a weird goal, which was like making a sequel to 2 separate movies that had their own stories, and then this is the sequel to both of them, which is pretty crazy.
Which is another thing that I think like differentiates it as well, because it is a sequel to those 2 movies, but it's also like a third act as a whole. But it is also its own standalone a little bit in a sense for Glass.
Well, I will say, you do need to have seen at least one of the previous movies to understand this movie fully. But I think Steve makes a good point in saying that like it's a sequel to both movies separately too. So I feel like you could just like you could know nothing about Unbreakable, just randomly watch Split and be like, weird, why is Bruce Willis at the end of this? Right. And then watch this and it makes sense. Or you never saw Split, assumed it was just some weird like high concept thriller, but you're familiar with Unbreakable, and then you watch this and then they give you enough context and actually show how Kevin does his thing as a supervillain, that you have enough context that the movie makes sense. I just don't think you can jump into this and be like, well, I'm fulfilled. Yeah, I would immediately want to. I could watch this and immediately go back and watch the other 2, but
there would be some dead air there where you would be a little confused if you haven't seen the other 2. But I think, like I was saying, it is a successful sequel to both of these other movies that don't really have anything to do with each other at all, right?
Yeah, that's why I compared it to an MCU sequel. Yeah,
I guess. But you also compare everything to an MCU sequel.
No, so I don't. I compare everything to a Final Fantasy. And it doesn't lose its meaning. It doesn't lose its meaning. It just, hey, Art by the Sea. We haven't seen Art by the Sea on the show in forever. And Art by the Sea says, that's what happened to me. I didn't know it was related to Unbreakable until the end. I assume they're talking about Split.
Yeah, probably. It would be weird if you didn't. Watching Glass, you're like, is this
the same Unbreakable as John?
I don't know if this Unbreakable man is the same Unbreakable man from Unbreakable. I'm not saying I disagree with you, Jason. Though it does have that, especially in the world we live in now, where everything is an MCU sequel and we barely get anything that isn't. I think
the MCU is in full effect in 2019. This fully lampoons that kind of superhero movie. Right down to the whole, like, we're gonna go fight on the top of the tallest building in the state that's freshly built.
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I mean, it's setting you up emotionally and mentally for that MCU finale, and then they don't give it to you, and then what they do give to you is pretty satisfying. I know that there was a lot of people that were very upset with the ending of this movie. People who love Unbreakable, people who love Split, were just like, "What the fuck? Like, this is terrible." And I was like, "No, it's exactly what would happen. Like, this is what would happen, man." These people are not Iron Man, they're not Thor, they're not Spider-Man, they're not people that have like ridiculously overpowered abilities.
They have
people
who
are slightly more insanely strong than we are.
Like what I like to call golden age superpowers, which is what the Watchmen have, where they are a little bit superpowered and they might have a gimmick, but for the most part, they're just people with heightened abilities.
Well, the Golden Age Watchmen, they were all just Batman. They were all vigilantes. They were just like people who were good at fighting and strong. And then in the Dr. Manhattan shows up and he's an actual
he's like
superhero,
a real
right?
superhero.
Yeah.
But like Falcon or Owlman or whatever the fuck. He has,
to me,
like,
it feels well, yeah, he's like a strong guy, but he also has like gadgets and shit. But my mind goes to like what people would describe like Hercules to be like, right? Where it's like he could lift a lion over his head and toss it 5 meters or whatever, and you're like, okay, that's in comparison to like Superman like sucker punching an asteroid into the sun or something, you know, like there are different levels. And like Greek mythology, a lot of it is just like they were strong, and they would write stories about people who were like supremely strong compared to a regular
Hercules'
person.
whole thing is that he is a slave and grinds a grinder in a circle for fucking like 10 years.
No, I know. I'm
so he is literally I'm agreeing with you. Like he is literally just strong. In this, they Sarah Paulson,
Ellie's Dr. Staple.
Glass brings up the strongman, or does Ellie bring up the strongman?
She brings up the strongman to explain,
explain why your abilities are slightly heightened, and that's a good way to look at it too. Like professional wrestlers, or like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is a superhero compared to me.
Yeah, but but I mean, like, it's like I've been saying the whole time, which is like they give you little examples visually of their strength and their abilities, where it's impressive to see, and you're like, oh shit, he caught that huge table. But it's not something that, like, if you were to see it in real life, you'd be like, holy fuck, and you would tell people about it and they wouldn't believe you. They would say like the guy probably deflected it off his arm or something. He didn't catch it and then throw it back at the other guy. They would assume that we were over elaborating the story. But in this, we see it going back and forth between them, and it's like, oh no, they are super strong. But if you were to tell this story to somebody, they wouldn't believe you.
We didn't talk about where that table ends up, though. He throws
it ends
the
up
table
on the
back, and it hits the cheerleader in the funny, like the most like dark comedy moment of the movie. Smokes
sandwiches her,
and then we find out later that she just got like a concussion and some broken ribs.
Well, it hits her like it like hits her flat into the wall, right? Yeah. It's not like it like hits her directly like he threw it. Yeah, he didn't throw it like a spear. He threw it like a big flat plank that sort of crushed her for a minute. So yeah, I believe the injuries, right? Like I'm like, yeah, she got hit by that table. Probably wouldn't kill you.
I've done
but
that
it would
before.
Fuck you up. It would probably break your ribs and give you a concussion for sure.
I think the most egregious thing though is when I think Anya Taylor-Joy Casey is like, Superman didn't fly at first. I'm like, yeah, but he could literally leap.
They keep doing that the whole movie.
Literally
though.
They keep
slap. Like I said, they rolled up
though.
an action comic,
and
they're slapping us in the face with it over and over
again.
Sucks like, we get it. It's a superhero thing. We know.
Superman. I think Superman, even though he's like the prototype for it all, I hate how he's DDized. Like he's like I hate how he's regarded as the prototypical superhero.
That's just because he was one of the first, man. Like
he's the first.
Yeah, so it's a thing that will always exist forever. Like
I hate him.
It's not gonna go away. You don't need to hate Superman.
I hate Clark Kent and I hate Superman.
Okay.
And I like shitty
I'm sure that
Henry
there is a
Cavill.
Superman story out there that you could read and you would probably
No,
like.
I was just about to say I like shitty whiny Zack Snyder Superman, the best of all of them. Because he's different. And he's a bitch.
I mean, I don't really like Superman all that much either because I think it's just like it's a hard character to write in terms of it's like a grandpa superhero, right? It's like, oh, he's a golden man and he's made of good vibes and he always says good morning and good night.
He's made of good vibes. He's made of good vibes, man. He's good vibe man.
Like he's just nice man, the Superman. And like, fine, whatever. Like, I love Batman because he's like a ninja scientist billionaire who just beats the fuck out of people.
Yeah, Batman is also deeply flawed. He's cool. But, you know, he's cool. That's.
And his costume looks like a bat.
Cool. He looks like a bat.
Cool. Yeah,
and
his villains are sick.
He beats
Mr.
up mentally
Freeze
ill
is a
people.
man.
He beats up mentally ill people while being mentally ill. So he's an equal opportunity vigilante. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm saying, the end of this movie is as if we all were living in a world where Arkham Asylum existed, but we didn't know that any of these supervillains were real. And then all of a sudden they all just started fighting each other on the front lawn, and we all saw it on YouTube, and we're like, what the fuck? TikTok videos of a man bending a bar and like uppercutting a guy into a vat of water and punching a van to death and flipping cars over and running on all fours.
Since we're kind of taking it home here, like, what... I don't really know what that ending super signifies, and the only theory that I put together was just like, at least the world knows. Contrary to this secret society that wants, you know, is like an FBI, where you just sweep everything under the carpet. At least people know that these kinds of people exist, contrary to what they want. But did you guys have any theories about the bigger meaning about the ultimate plan being to show these superheroes like have a superhero battle? Or was it just Mr. Glass being like, I love comic books and I know superheroes exist, let's fucking have a showdown on the dark web?
Well, it's kind of a little bit implied that Mr. Glass was working with his mom and the other two in order to like bring this information forward, because they all experienced it, right? The son, the kidnapped victim, and the mom, they've all been so uniquely intertwined with these people's lives that they're like, no, we know it's true. And you're trying to convince us now that they're not superheroes. We've seen it, man. Like we've seen it with our own eyes. Like I saw this guy climb a wall with his fingernails and toenails, and that is not parkour.
But isn't it possible that maybe you could possibly be the kind of person who studied that's my Sarah Paulson, who could have studied a whole bunch of videos.
Sounds more like Hedwig to me.
Well, it sounds like Daffy Duck, because Sarah Paulson has this fucking lisp that does not quit. I love her. She's an amazing actor, but it's so distracting. I stare at her fucking mouth the whole time.
It's a bit of a slurred speech. I know it. It's something that runs in my family as well.
At any rate.
What's the kid's name from South Park?
You just said his name by doing the impression, because that's the whole impression. I'm Scott Malkinson. I've got diabetes. But yeah, that was another one that she brought up. Like, isn't it possible that we saw that you looked at some climbing videos, and that's, but when they show
rock
him,
climbers,
he's like, when he climbs,
he's
up
crawling on the
wall,
ceiling at one point.
Yeah, when he climbs up a wall at one point, I was like, oh, they're showing it like in this way to show that he could be free climbing or whatever it's called, when you just use your hand strength to like hold on. But when he's on the actual ceiling upside down, when they do that really
There's probably
cool,
like pipes or something.
No, they show him like Spider-Man the ceiling.
Yeah, and then you can see little like grips where his fingers and his toes like went into the wall. Like he's just breaking the wall by like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. He's a superhero. He's clearly a superhero, and they're just gaslighting. It's the gaslight tower at the top of Philadelphia.
It's glass. It's gas.
To answer your question, Jason,
He's
a little
getting
bit.
Glass lit.
I looked at it a little more simplified kind of lens, I guess, where Unbreakable is basically David's victory, Split is in a sense Kevin's victory, and then this is Elijah's victory.
Okay.
So like, you know, his master plan comes to fruition.
Okay, but like one footstep beyond that is my big smoking gun, and that's
okay. Bring it.
Why did he want to expose these two? Like
well, it's a continuation of his whole thing from the first movie, which is that he wants to prove that these people exist. He knows that he has like a crazy
He also
intellect.
wants a purpose.
This is his purpose. He has a crazy intellect, and he's able to see things that other people aren't. And he believes that comic books, literature, paintings, and just tales through history are all based on the fact that these people who are slightly better than everybody else exist.
Right.
And that's why he was creating all the disasters, was to prove his own point. And he did. And he got locked up for it, and nobody believes him. So now he's doing it again. And he's like, no, now I have two of them, and I can make them fight, and people will see them and realize like these guys are able to like throw cars at each other and like bend steel bars and climb walls and run like animals, and like everyone's going to see it and they'll know. And then it will potentially spread virally through the internet. And if there's anybody else that exists that has these powers, they now have confirmation that they're not just different, they're like special. So I think that that's why he's doing it, is to essentially like unlock the world to a new level. To be like, listen, there are super beings that exist, and you might be one of them, and you just got to figure it out.
I think the both of you provided the context I needed to really wrap my head around it, because the whole time I'm going like, I kind of forgot about how he was the one that had that keeps saying that, you know, that's why he's so interested in paintings and comic books, because it's just a representation of what humans can be capable of, and it's based off of a long couple millennia of people passing down stories of the strongman, like you said, like the Herculeses or the Zeus or the Norse gods or the Greek gods, etc. And that's really good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
He's also crazy.
But, he's also, like, they're all crazy. The three of them are
like, there's a really good. I know we didn't actually do Unbreakable on the show, which is kind of unfortunate. We didn't go through all three of them, but there's a really great scene in the first movie where he is in his shop, which is not really, it's not a comic book store. It's like a gallery. His home is like it's almost like a museum. It's like an art gallery. And he has these original prints, or not prints, original pens and pencils of drawings for comics. And there's this man who's willing to pay like $40,000 or something for this original drawing of, I can't remember what the superhero is, but
I believe it was actually it was like the kind of like Superman prototype versus a Beast prototype, which is actually, when they describe the Beast, is that original drawing from Unbreakable.
Okay, so it's just a made up thing.
Like it's not like a real comic from our world, if that's what you mean.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. I couldn't remember if it was like a drawing of Superman or something. But there's this guy, and he's gonna buy it for like $40,000 or something. And
sorry to cut you off, Steve, but I feel like M. Night Shyamalan might have had this whole story written in like a binder in like high school. You know what I mean? Like it feels like he's
maybe
this feels very all three of these movies feel very passion project, and you know, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that like there's a really great scene where it just kind of like illustrates perfectly who he is as a person and how he thinks of regular people. And it's like, this guy wants to buy this painting for a ridiculous amount of money, and he is happy to sell it to him. And then the guy during their conversation says something along the lines of, "My kid's gonna love it." And Mr. Glass is like, "Excuse me?
Do I look like a bitch?"
And he's like, "You're buying this for a child?" And he like throws him out and doesn't sell it. He's like, "Fuck you, and fuck your stupid kid, your sticky fingered Crayola eating idiot child. Like, this is not for him. This is to be placed behind bulletproof glass and never touched again." And this guy's buying it for like his little kid or whatever, right? And I think that just kind of like shows you who Mr. Glass is as a guy, where he doesn't think of people as people until they reach like an intellectual point that can either like have a conversation with him or understand things for their value and not as like something to give to, like I'm pretty sure he calls him like a crayon eating bitch or something like that. I
remember that scene for sure.
Anyway, I just wanted to go back a couple beats to that, because it's just like it's just who he is, man. His intellect is so high that he can't think of regular people as anywhere close to him. And he wants to find the people that are close to him, the ones that are unbreakable, so to speak, the ones that can be drowned, or the broken.
Unbreakable. Kimmy Schmidt is in this universe, right?
Yeah, she hasn't been released from the underground vault yet, or whatever. But she shows up in the first episode of the Glass TV series.
Yeah, that's actually the TV show spinoff of this.
Unbreakable Split Glass.
I mean, I feel like the TV show would have something to do with the two younger characters, right? Like the son and the.
I can see it just being its own thing, like
or
just
its own thing.
Finding new.
I know, but that's boring.
But then the fucking superhero police show up. Like, it just becomes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Have shows like that.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was basically what.
No, you see, that's a terrible example.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There's other shows that are more similar to it being like even like Heroes in the first beginning aspect.
Actually, Heroes, Heroes that was done in a way that could totally. And Heroes was a kind of a off the idea that we could have grounded superheroes, because I remember Unbreakable coming out.
But then it became like everything else, and
then there were comic books and spin-offs and all kinds of shit, and
it's like really... now we're going into the new universe, which is a different timeline, and I'm like, oh god, no. It went full superhero.
Don't New 52 a fucking comic book after 3 seasons of a television show, okay? We're not doing that. And then the reboot that they tried to do, which was just I didn't even finish because it was so bad.
Wow, you watched way more Heroes than I did.
I've seen all of Heroes except for like the last episode of the like 2017 fucking reboot or whatever. Anyway, take us home, Cage Man. I guess Steve just walked away. Oh, there he is. Hello.
He's back. It is almost that time as we wrap up tonight's episode of Hey, did you see this?
We wrap up tonight's year.
This month, this year. It's been a pleasure having all of us with us through this journey, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. To do our final thoughts, we'll start with you again, Jason. Let's hear them.
Excellent. Glass completes what to me is one of the best non-DC or Marvel superhero stories ever created. I know that's a shallow pool.
Jesus Christ, man.
But even having said that, it stands with some of the better Marvel stories. And also, the fact that you brought up Heroes, that's a big one. And also the Nolan Batman.
More grounded for sure.
Fits into this sort of. I could see.
I feel like if you're gonna like sweep with superhero stories, you shouldn't like pool DC as like just the universe they tried to create in the last 10 years or whatever. Like you gotta go back to the Burton Batmans and stuff too.
That's
right?
true.
Like,
that's true.
That exists.
That's true. But also the Schumacher Batmans exist in the same breath. So.
I love my nipple bats.
Yeah, but
give me more nipple bats.
They're not objectively good movies. They're fucking kids.
Yeah,
movies
but they make me
sell.
horny.
Okay,
and there's nothing better than being horny.
There is nothing better than being horny.
Beat up Robin.
The only thing better than being horny is coming. So take that and put that on my gravestone.
I'm sure that was the opening line of Batman and Robin when Uma Thurman says the only thing better than being horny. And then a big flower opens and eats somebody.
Yeah, and then Two-Face it's just the Riddler and the Joker at the same time. But the Riddler's also in the movie.
Didn't go back to the source material.
No.
It's just like, so I'm crazy, right?
I'm crazy. I'm still crazy, right? Sometimes I'm hot-headed. Sometimes
do I get to use a Tommy
hot-headed.
gun? Call me Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee
Gun for hire.
I thought it was a great progression from The Gap, from Unbreakable to Split being a Trojan sequel, and Glass capping the story with all the characters. It was a great ride. Glass itself was very enjoyable. It looks great. It tells a great story. It had a satisfying conclusion. I'd like to add on to that. The sound design was great, and it's just one of those movies that is, you want to see what happens next for the full 2 hours. Like what next? Okay, what next? And it snaps through it. Like there's no boring lulls. I'm sure on a
Yeah.
rewatch, I would have moments where I'm like, okay, this scene was fine. Let's get to the next thing. But it requires multiple viewings. I think all of these movies require multiple viewings.
I vouch for it.
Tells a great story and had a satisfying conclusion, both ending a story and as a film. I give it a 4 out of 5. I recommend this to any fans of superhero movies, but the first 2 movies are required watching, and I kind of refuted that as we talked about it tonight. I would say that one or the other are required viewing. I think Split and Glass go together better just because it's a newer movie, but Unbreakable tells the whole story of one of the main characters in this, even though Unbreakable's character is kind of less interesting. He's just the de facto superhero, but it's more complicated than that, I guess. I give this film a walking around touching people on the arm to see who has a bad streak, but touching Kevin Crumb and finding out he has hundreds of personalities while Mr. Glass uses those personalities to destroy the overseer as a final act of defiance.
Nice. I like it.
God.
I just summed up the whole.
Yeah. Jeez.
I like it. Like a lot. Steven, yes. Why don't you...
I apologize. I didn't have time to write my thing because I was watching the movie up until pressing join this conversation. Would have loved to because I have a lot of thoughts. But I think I got a lot of the thoughts out during our discussion. So I don't feel like I need to get too heavy into it in the end here. As I said before, I think it's a very good sequel to 2 movies that otherwise would have nothing to do with one another. He could have made these 2 movies completely isolated on their own and not had the connecting tissue at the end. And then this movie wouldn't have existed and nobody would have even cared. But just sprinkling David Dunn in at the end of of Split just created a whole world where we're like, what? He has a universe that he's been thinking about? And I got excited and I saw this movie and it excites me even more, even though it ends. Like the movie ends and it ends satisfactorily, for me at least. I think that all 3 of them dying is great. I kind of love it. I think that Elijah is very interesting as a character, and I would love to see the young adventures of Elijah, like being this weird murderer man who's just trying to find supervillains, and like maybe he found some other ones that were like not quite up to snuff, and he ended up killing them. Who knows? Sound design is amazing. The cinematography is great. The choice to make it set within a facility for the entire movie is so good. I've already said multiple times that I love the fact that the showdown does not take place at the top of a big, expensive, brand new building, that we get to see people flying around and flying through pipes and having to figure out a brand new setting. Instead, they just gave us the stuff we've been seeing the entire time. You see that lawn like 40 times throughout this movie. They keep showing that front lawn over and over and over and over again. You see it so many times. And then the climax of the movie is just them beating the piss out of each other on that front lawn. And it's good. It's very good. I'm not sure how I feel about a man drowning him in a puddle, but at the same time, like if that is his weakness and water does actually magically make him weaker, then yeah, that's kind of cool. I hate secret societies. I think it's such an easy cop-out thing to do. I really don't like when one person leaves a restaurant and then everybody, including the bartender, just stops talking and then one person's like, we've done it. Like, the bartender's also part of this. He's just like, yeah, they hired me way back. I'm really good at cocktails and they gave me all these dossiers about secret shit, so I just have to shut up for most of the time. But it's fun. It's comic booky, right? Like it's fun. In terms of what I would give it, I would say that this is a very old stained glass window that from a distance is perfect. A glasterpiece, you would say. But upon close inspection, there are a couple of cracks here and there, imperfections, if you will, and even a couple of panels that if you touch them, they're loose and they could fall out with just a little bit too much pressure. But otherwise, if you just take a step back and see the unbreakable portion, you see the split portion, you see the glass portion, it is a beautiful stained glass window, and it's good.
Also, split and unbreakable are two states that glass could be. So, kind of had that epiphany recently.
Nice.
Over the
Holy
last 10
shit.
minutes. I know it's stupid, but I think that
when I was picturing the stained glass window, I pictured it being made of all panels of purple, yellow, and like a pale green.
Or three.
That sounds like a good art attack to make.
3 stained glass windows that are dedicated to the 3 boyos of the story.
Maybe I should try and draw that.
Please do. Please do. We'll post it everywhere.
Like your Grimoire t-shirts.
Yeah. Anyway, Kaylin, I think it's your turn to tell us what you think.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, I want to be bold. I'm going to be a little bold and say I think this might be the best superhero trilogy to date. And I'm just going to leave it right at that. I'll add a little bit more, though. So I did write, like, I can understand how some people might see this as the weaker of the 3. And again, I think going in with a certain expectation might be what leads to that. But I would recommend giving it a few more viewings and appreciating it for what it is. I mentioned it earlier, but Unbreakable focuses on David realizing who he is, Split with Kevin realizing who he is, his potential. And then this has Elijah's master plan coming to fruition, cementing him as the mastermind, the creator of superheroes. I give this movie a we exist and a buy. It's also MPAA 51808.
I give this podcast a we exist and buy. All right. Don't forget to hit that fucking follow button, and thank you for
2022, everyone.
Thank you for everybody that came through this year into the chat. We had our first 2 guests. We plan on having at least a guest a month going forward. Next month
out there, send your submissions to our Instagram page, and if you want to join,
I'm going to give you the big reveal on what January's theme is, because we're going back to themes, baby. Remember last year when we did John Carpenter Presents January?
Let's do it again.
We're doing it again. It's
John Carpenter's back.
John Carpenter's back, baby, and we're doing the sequel month. Not sequel month. We're doing the sequel to our original January, but just more movies by John Carpenter. And also, we have a very special guest and a little bit of cross-pollination with another podcast. Nice. And those details will be revealed in the future because we're still a couple weeks off. But personally, I'd like to thank everybody we ended out the year with 550 something followers on Twitch.
Just say a number between 1 and 9. I bet you could nail it.
I think it's 500. Here, I can just scroll down a little bit. 562, my mans. We were at 544 when we started the day today. I've been putting in those work, doing those reps, and we're moving on up to the side. I'd like to get 1,000 followers by summer. I think that's attainable. But I love you guys, and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, and Kaylin, I think
I got a question for you.
Kaylin, I think.
Oh yeah. Right, my bad. Yes. Happy New Year's. Thank you, all the viewers. Come back again. For Jason and Steven, I'm Kellen.
For Steven and Kaylin, I'm Jason.
For Kaylin, for Jason, I am Steven.
And we just got to ask you one thing. Hey. Did you see this one?
Did you see this
one?
Hey,
did you see this one? Hey, did you see this one? Hey.
Hey. It's glass, baby. Glaster piece. The Glaster Blaster.
It's the Glaster piece.
Glass.
The Glaster piece.
Guess what?
Put that in your glass and smoke it.
Now you see it. Now you don't.
Well,
but you still do because it's right here.
Nobody can see anything because they can see our things.
This is the
Let's
part
make
of
like
the
a tree
episode
and split.
Thanks for watching.
where we
Information.
gibberish.
Unbreakable.
Are we still gibberishing?
Unbreakable. She's alive. Damn it.
What about now?
Man, you guys think Mr. Glass is dead or alive? I know he